Okay, please remember that you can pause my lecture at any time in order to be able to take notes. So this is chapter 2, and if you notice, the first thing I kind of differentiate is that we are going to be dealing with eukaryotic cells. Humans have eukaryotic cells, bacteria are prokaryotic cells. So when we did the culturing lab, those were all prokaryotic cells we're working with. Eukaryotic cells, one of the primary differences is that it has, not only is it much larger, but it does have a nucleus to it, whereas prokaryotic cells do not. And the parts of the cell that we're going to be going to today are discussing all the organelles that are responsible for making the cell function, because you guys are very complex and you need all of the organelles in order to be able to divvy up the tasks that the cell has to have. So here we go. If you notice, your notes are split up into the organelles, the function, as well as the location. So the first one is the one that everybody always remembers, and that's the nucleus. The nucleus is the brain of the cell. It's the thing that houses the DNA. It's floating inside the cytoplasm of the cell. It is separate from the rest of the organelles, and it's kind of the most important part. The other thing that I want to note is that the nucleus does contain nuclear pores. That's very selective what it allows through it. You don't want just everything getting into the nucleus because it holds all of your important information, which is your DNA. So if you look right here, there you'll see the nucleus. Right here, the nucleus is floating around in the center. Then you have the endoplasmic reticulum. So the function of the endoplasmic reticulum is right here. It does package things, and if you notice, I have it split up into rough and I have it split up into smooth. So the endoplasmic reticulum itself, if you look, is sitting outside of the cell. It's all of this kind of orange stuff. It's connected directly to the nucleus. The rough endoplasmic reticulum is responsible for making proteins, making and packaging proteins that your body needs, whereas the smooth is responsible for lipid synthesis. The location is directly outside the nucleus in the cytoplasm. Then you have the Golgi apparatus. This is not in your notes, but you do need to add it in there. The function is to package things. It stores secreted materials like breast milk, which is right here. It also helps package the final sugars, and it is located floating around in the cytoplasm of the cell. Then you have the lysosomes. Okay, so as I was saying, the lysosomes, the function of the lysosomes, these guys clean up the mess, clean up any cellular waste. They're the janitors of the cell. They attach to things and digest. Otherwise, you're going to have a bunch of cellular waste build up. So they digest old organelles, bacteria, things like that. One of the conditions that's out there that is these infants do not have the enzymes that break down lipids. So it starts to build up. The lysosomes are malfunctioning. Is Tay-Sachs. So they lack the enzyme that normally breaks down lipids, and what happens is their brain cells drown in fats, which is horrible. So they usually die before they're a year old. Some make it to 3 years old, but it's definitely a death sentence. The organelle that everybody usually remembers outside of the nucleus is the mitochondria. So the function is the powerhouse of the cells. It generates all of the energy needed for the cells. Remember before I was talking about how muscle cells have a lot of extra mitochondria in there because they need to be able to move. They look like little tic-tacs. The location, they're floating everywhere in the cytoplasm, and some of the cells have more and some of the cells have less. So they're floating everywhere if you see. But mitochondria is so spiffy, by the way, that it has its own circular DNA. The DNA, it's called mitochondrial DNA. It's called M for mitochondrial DNA. It's circular in shape, if you see, right here. It's so critical, so mtDNA right there. Your mitochondrial genes are only inherited from your mother. I'll show you this YouTube video afterwards, but mitochondrial genes are only inherited from mom. Dad does not have any part in it. That's how they were able to map that everybody has the mitochondrial DNA from that one woman in Africa, the mitochondrial Eve. Peroxisomes, these guys are floating around the cytoplasm of the cell, and the function is to detoxify your cell, right? So here's the location. The function is to detoxify your cells. It's kind of like if you think about hydrogen peroxide, it draws your infection out. It's like bleach and Lysol for the cells. And I'll go over these afterwards, but we're done with the notes, so you can save your information.